system and connected actually through Kevin with a bunch of people in workforce development as well to support their agenda. I recently actually helped them. They've created a animation focused industry. I would say, like, we have an advisory council, and I brought some people to them in support of what they were doing for the community college system to see what skill sets may or may not be missing. What do they need to know from industry to better align their curriculum, their programs, their certifications, whatever it is, to make sure their students can go like what we do, best from campus to career without a huge learning curve. Of course, we know EQ and all those other things are areas we need to focus on, not just the digital skills or the technology or those tools as well. Hi, Jamie.
Hey, Jamie. Hey, good morning.
You know, Simone, I'd love to connect with you later. I'll put my email in the chat on your gaming, because we're actually looking at building a pathway with esports.
Okay, and I got you on that.
That would be awesome.
I've just spent 2 years focused on esports.
I love it.
Tell me what you need.
Yeah. I need to know how to start.
Well, great. And we're doing, now we're doing introductions. Jamie, you've never met Jamie, but you guys are spirituals, kindred spirits. And I want to introduce Jamie to you. But Simone, can you do a real quick rewind of what you do for the California State University system and kind of how we have integrated our spirits together today? And then I'm going to have Jamie jump in, and then we're going to talk about this thing called the charrette.
Okay, so really quickly, and you know, I'll put csuentertainment.com as our website, and it gives a really good, here, I'll actually make it a hot link for you, overview of what we do. But we connect that's the largest, most diverse four-year public university system in the nation. We connect all 23 campuses, 500,000 students, the faculty, nearly 4 million alumni, to the entertainment, arts, and media industry through a variety of programs. And to be a good segue into the charrette, that thing that Kevin wants to discuss, one of our biggest programs is an internship program. It is a full 3-credit Cal State certified program. Here's the cool thing about our program. So what we try to do is look at what the barriers are to accessibility, you know, not just the obvious reasons why entertainment, arts, and media, besides probably technology, is the least diversified industry. So we know what the obvious reasons are. Some other barriers are accessibility financially, for example. Our students, like your students, a lot of them have to work full to part-time, live at home to be able to afford to go to school. There's, you know, how can you get an early level career experience if you're already working and it most likely isn't focused on your career aspirations? You got to work at the cafe down the road for a variety, you know, and those jobs are so hard to get, even if they're free, those internships, those career experiences. Our students can't take a summer off, and maybe they're in Fresno. They can't go to LA. How are they going to live there? Mm-hmm. So we looked at different ways to solve that problem. And one of them is to create a less expensive internship program, but still fully accredited. The deans of our colleges don't like this because they charge a full 3-credit course, which is $1,000 to $1,500 a semester. We charge $200. We do it through the College of Extended Learning. And again, fully accredited. The executive director of our initiative that hired me, she's a professor, serves as the faculty advisor. So it's, you know, she reviews everything. She signs off on everything. Most really good internship programs want a professor. They want it to be through a university system. They want it accredited. You can't just get a random experience, a proper academic internship program. So our program lets students do that. They don't have to be a Cal State student. They can be a community college student. They can be anywhere student. The other cool thing about what we did regarding accessibility is we also saw some students staying instead of graduating, staying because they didn't have an opportunity to do an internship before they were supposed to graduate. They got all the credits they need. And we're like, no, graduate. Don't stay in school to get a work experience. That's absurd and expensive. So our program lets students do that for up to 2 more years postgraduate. So you still need a career experience. You can do that through us. And to the employer, to Universal Studios, for example, it will look like you're still a registered student. And I don't mean, it's sort of a workaround. You are a registered student. We're not lying. You are, but you've already graduated technically. Right. You got your degree. It's cool, right?
That's super cool.
Right.
We also do, you know, obviously pre and post COVID, a summer housing program. You get a killer, again, let's say you're at Humboldt State or anywhere. It could be Bakersfield. It could be, you know, somewhere in the Imperial Valley, or it's just not that close to the main areas of San Francisco and Los Angeles, where most of these opportunities are. We have a free housing program. Unfortunately, we can't house hundreds of students. At this point, it's 10 to 15. And we created a partnership with Emerson LA, which has this gorgeous, right in the heart of it all, state-of-the-art building. And they offer us half price to have our students with their students there in the summer. We pay for all the housing. Students don't have to worry about that. All they have to do is pay for parking. They have a car, which they probably do. It's LA. And they can do their opportunity without worry. And more often than not, they're paid opportunities because that's what we're striving for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the segue into a lot of what Kevin wanted to talk about, right? Did I do good?
You did great. You did great. And I'm going to let Jamie introduce herself. And she has got the, what we call the command and control, because the concept of charrette was something new to me. And she's built out a way for us to create this charrette experience customized for the focused, targeted group of students we want to reach in the California Community College system and beyond. But Jamie is the person who came up with this way for us to create a charrette. I'm going to call it plus. So Jamie, if you can introduce the way ahead for our charrette program and a little background on you.
Okay, I'll start with a little background on me while this loads. Because my computer's crazy today. Anyway, hello, Simone. I am Jamie Conway. I'm a woman of many talents. I usually introduce myself 1 or 2 ways, but I'll give you the whole schmeal. I'll start by saying I'm an adjunct professor at Long Beach City College. I teach real estate.
Cool.
That is happening in the spring. I just learned, so I've been writing my syllabus. In addition, though, I'm a realtor and I teach finance as well. And I just love helping my community here in the Inglewood area. It's where I kind of grew up. I went to Crenshaw High School and then I went to Woodbury University and I studied architecture. And as part of our architecture curriculum, as I call it, we would have these charrettes every semester. And it would be, they take us and we're already sleep deprived and they take the interior architecture and the graphic design students and they toss us all in the studio. And then they bring in real life architects and they bring in city planners. And they would force us to work together, whether we liked it or not. If you didn't participate, your grades in your other classes would be affected because your professors from all your other classes were your mentors for that 12-hour day. And we would have a competition. And they would say, here's a piece of land, here's all the specs for that land, and here's a community leader. Maybe this one is Boys and Girls Club of America is here with us. And you've got to build something on this land that fits the specifications and the government approvals of the cities, and you've got 12 hours, go. And so we'd have 12 hours to produce, and we'd have to pull from, and throughout that 12 hours, maybe 3 hours in, they throw another little secret ingredient.
That's like yeah. What are those, the show, the fashion show on television do that. They're like, and now you have to make it out of cheese.
Exactly. So that would be our lives. And at the end of the day, yeah, we're stressed out, and some of us are crying, and some of us are happy, and some of us are just spazzing out.
But it was the best experience of your life.
And you got to create in a way that you'll never be able to create in a workplace, right? Once you become the designer for Walmart, you're creating rectangles. You would not be able to create these fantabulous community centers with your graphic designer saying, hey, why don't you make your wall translucent so you can see text? Like you got this opportunity. So the charrette idea it wasn't new to me, and we stole it from other campuses. USC does it a lot.
Yeah, a lot of, they call it something different, or it might look a little different, but some of our campuses have something a little bit similar. I was telling Kevin, and I did something similar in a course in grad school, but it was around advertising and entertainment. We had to pitch the real Broadway show producer for a real show. They were our client.
Exactly.
And we all had to work together, and oh yeah, my team won.
Hello, exactly. And so there's a winner, and all the while though, these actual professors or professionals from different industries are watching you, right? And they're paying attention because they've given you this project that only a student, I say, can do, because it's like children, how you have your imagination runs wild when you're a child. And sometimes as we become seasoned professionals, our creativity gets thrown in this box. So those students have that imagination still. And so we decided, as we've been planning this Digital Pathways Initiative, to take it into that creative box and turn it into a charrette. And even go so far, I've started calling them episodes now. At first I was resisting that because I know Kevin already comes from entertainment. I come from kind of business and architecture and design, but I never was calling them episodes. But the more I've been working on pulling this together, it's evolved into that. And so creating our own competition type of show and documenting everything that we do to plan it out. The students documenting everything that they do, keep a blog, do the confessionals. And so, and then I also have an ad agency. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit now called Urban Social Entrepreneurs. And I'm literally like rebuilding the website right now because it got hacked. And so I feel like
kidding? That sucks.
I'm serious. And we have 4,000 members over this last 10 years. And my mentor gave it to me and said, I can't do this anymore. I have 7 kids that now I have to homeschool, help. And so that's how that turned out. But we have this Learning and Knowledge Institute that already promoted online learning. And so I said, let me build out this portal, because if we're gonna do this and we're gonna have this charrette and have these wonderful people thinking and creating from community colleges and from professions, I don't mind us being the host. Since I have to rebuild anyway, let me build this. And so, and it has to happen digitally because we're all in the middle of this pandemic. So let me share my screen a smidge.
Right, and just a little bit of a plug here for a couple of folks who want to join this charrette conversation. I've talked to Apple, and there's a gentleman by the name of Ted Lai. I think, Simone, you've met Ted before.
I know Ted, yeah, he's wonderful.
Yes. And Charlotte has talked to Ted via phone about a month ago. So Ted is with Apple Distinguished Education, and they have coined a way for their way to use Swift coding is a program, an iOS program to teach people how to develop iOS apps. They've called it challenge-based learning. And in the community college system, they call it project-based learning. But Ted believes that the challenges that provide a concept like charrette will make it plus, because hacking, but also design, learning how to speak adult, all these things will help to improve someone's capacity after post-experience to be able to separate themselves from the pack of people who are just figuring out, well, what if? So Apple has given me a great opportunity to bring them into the charrette. And then there's one other person, when Jamie puts this together, that I've talked to. Her name is Keisha Washington. She's the Director of Strategic Innovation for LADWP, the largest energy company in the world. And they want to, and as a matter of fact, she may join the conversation. They want to, as a corporation, figure out how to bring something to the table around designing solutions for real estate projects that could be affordable housing for students, for elderly, with green technology brought in. So we've talked this morning about a lot of things that LADWP can bring as a module to this project, with real opportunities to talk to the developers who are building out these new green projects. So just wanted to talk about that. So anyway, you're yours, Jamie.
Awesome. I love that. I just wrote that one down, especially the green projects with the real estate and the tech. I want to be on that team. Anyway.
I'm going to put her information in the chat box too. So go ahead, Jamie.
Right. I want to be on that team. All right. So Digital Pathways Initiative, we talked about the charrette. So I'm not going to spend much time on it, but it's the best way to do this challenge-based learning and create that good type of stress that forces you to create and not overthink. So that's really me defining what a charrette is, but we all are kind of familiar with it, and creating those teams and those subgroups like Project Runway or Hell's Kitchen or MasterChef. And again, those benefits are that opportunity to create, I always too, I want this to be for community college students, because you want that advantage when they look at 2 resumes, and one's from USC and one's from Trade Tech. You want to feel like the Trade Tech has an advantage at some point. But I do also like the idea of throwing in a USC person on that team, because those community college students at some point might want to transition to a 4-year. And what does it look like to work alongside someone that's a junior already at a 4-year? That might be powerful as well. But those are just my thoughts when I go to sleep at night now. But these interdisciplinary teams, creating solutions, I think could be a really strong concept. Forcing them to be project managers and create budgets and do the things that they'd have to do on the job once they get that position. And guiding them, having the mentors obviously guide them, I think is something really strong.
Sorry to interrupt. I think Keisha.
Keisha just joined us from LADWP.
Yeah,
so the team you want to be on, Jamie? Yeah, we'll have Keisha introduce herself, but keep going, Jamie. As soon as you finish the charrette.
I love what he had just introduced you.
This is called Movie Magic, by the way.
Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna just, the benefits of a charrette, the students get to all work together and act as if they're on this job and have a challenge-based learning opportunity. And these are the players, right? And so facilitators will be pretty much the executive producers of this. We're gonna MC this event. We're gonna make sure all the projects and the secret ingredients are in their baskets. We're gonna make this happen. The professionals, which can also be our jury, are the people that are LADWP, Sinclair Broadcasting, NBC, they're whoever are bringing us these projects that the students need to solve, and going to help judge them at the end of every episode. The mentors are right there rolling up their sleeves and helping the student in their classroom, like, that doesn't follow their brand guidelines, or no, that building's not to code. Like, they're right there in the mix, helping those students. And then we have the student teams. I don't know if we want to start with the top 20 or the top 30. That's something that we can discuss. And then our sponsors, this opportunity to turn this base into consumers, to go get sponsorships, whether it be from AT&T or Sprint T-Mobile, because this is a consumer base, and an opportunity for us to create some digital content that can be streamed and watched eventually. So getting this funded in a different way, if we can't tap into other budgets, I think is the opportunity there with sponsorships. And so these are just a few examples. USC has the architecture. They have a first place, second place, third place, the actual architects and the city planner. And it's literally that. Here's a piece of land, and they drew all their computer renderings to be on this land, and this is the team that won. And so at the end of the day, they have to present their work. And that was an experience that was new to me when I was in the School of Architecture, is having to stand up and defend what you put on a piece of paper. It really made me grow up quick because everybody, as you can see, is watching you. And that's something we hardly ever experience. Then of course,
that's so funny. That's ours. That's me.
Exactly.
I was going to say, we just supported and worked on something like this. That's so funny.
Exactly. I used you as a case study. Kevin's been sending me links all this time. So I was like, yeah, that's totally kind of like a charrette. It's a competition and you have to develop something. I love that. And then of course, one that we all know is MasterChef, right? They got competitions. They don't know what's coming to them, but they've got to act in the moment, and then they win. And sometimes they win a job. Sometimes they win cash. Sometimes it's both, or just bragging rights. But just having that, that competition going on. And then we've got to get these projects. I think that was something I came to yesterday. We've got to get the projects pulled together so that we understand, so that as we recruit or cast the students, we're casting the right mix of students, the right mix of majors to accomplish those tasks.
To get the interdisciplinary teams, which is what working in the real world is like, which is not what going to school is like. Everything's siloed. I talk about this all the time. Yeah, I mean, through an advisory council like I work with, they got some problems everywhere. needs some creative young nimble minds on it.
Exactly. So I think that's going to be what makes this powerful. And when we say it's for community college students, all the 4 years are going to be jealous, but it'll give the community colleges that footing that it needs to be valuable again. Not that it's not, but again, even more.
and to that point, Jamie, Keisha's on the call, but she made one point, and I'm going to introduce her real quick.
Okay.
She made one point about the community colleges. It's not just the young folks, but it's also the institution of the second chance and third chance. There's people that I've taught who are 50, 60, and 70 years of age in the community college system. So this gives a lot of people in the spectrum of workforce prospecting a chance to retrofit their lives. So Keisha, if you can do a brief introduction, I don't know how long you can stay on, but this is a person who is really an anchor for whatever we decide to do.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm sorry, I'm going to move to the other side of the couch because me and the son are fighting and I think it's winning.
You're glowing, though. You're glowing.
I'm definitely glowing. And also, I didn't expect to be on a call today. And usually my default is my Santa hat, but I don't know where that is. I think the dog took it, like literally. Because I don't really like to call.
Do you do that in the summer too? In the summer, you put on your Santa hat? Just say, I like Christmas in July.
See, okay, so I'm going to give you a black hair lesson. My hair is natural, but the only time I get it straightened is when I go get the gray dye out. So I want it to be straight for just a couple of days. And then I'm going to wet it, put my conditioner on, and put it back in the ponytail. But I'm in that transition phase. Go away, Roscoe, my dog. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. Anyway, my name is Keisha. I'm the Director of Innovation and Strategic Partnerships at LADWP, which means I'm in a lot of stuff and not in a lot of stuff. I am familiar with the charrette concept. I was telling Kevin, there was one that was done, I believe, by LAEDC for Council Member Mike Bonin years ago about some property he had over in his district and what could be done there. So I saw that. One of my opportunities for growth and participating in projects like this is at the end of the day, I need to know that there's something tangible there. Not that you've showed us something really cool and there's not a way to implement or actualize it. I did notice that one of our newest board members was on the one at USC, Mia Lair. So we finally have a board of 5 women. I've known Mia for years when I was in Antonio's office. So kind of when I was talking to Kevin, I said, what would be really cool? The mayor of LA, for example, has a competition, $100,000 about designing low-income housing. So that's one option, or even a competition about building, because as you know, we have a significant homeless population, and it really is clear in the community college population, the number of folks who are living out of cars, et cetera. And is there a way to come up with a single use or small housing units maybe parked there that implement elements of energy efficiency, solar, making it green as possible, but also giving these folks a sense of security, but having the students design that, cost it out, and then also deal with how do you get permits for it? Where do you site it? How do you bring power? How do you bring water? How do you minimize the trash coming out of it, not just during the construction process, but afterwards? And if there's a way to do something like that, and then to seek funding for whoever's got the best idea to then build some of them. And then maybe even a lottery for students to be able to live in them.
And then a marketing and advertising challenge around telling the world about it and getting people excited.
Yes, getting funding, advertising the finished product, and seeing if we can repeat.
Yes. I love that so much.
Well, and again, Keisha, if you can talk about some of the things that you and I and some of the people that I've introduced you to have experienced through your vision for how to connect communities that you represent or are underrepresented, to bring them into focus so that they can be not only exposed to the resources, but to some of the players that we've talked about, helping them understand the processes, as well as the soft skills that are necessary for them to really come out of this thing with some kind of competitive advantages that the students who they will then become potential mentors in doing peer-to-peer mentoring will get. So, and in summary, things like the Green Tech Incubator Accelerator, talk about that. And I think it's Michael Ferguson?
Daniel Ferguson.
Daniel Ferguson, and some of the things that could link to bringing some of these resources to bear.
So let me see if I can talk you through a little bit of what Kevin's articulating. One of my biggest concerns especially with students of color or with young people and with mentor or internship programs as they currently exist for the most part is, unfortunately, the mentee is also viewed as just a source of cheap labor, and they're not getting the value of that experience. Also, given what we've gone through over the summer, and in recognizing some of the opportunities for growth vis-a-vis Black Lives Matter, et cetera, and getting corporations to live up to their word in terms of, oh, we are inclusive, we are X, Y, and Z, trying to figure out a way so that when a corporation says that we have a corporate social responsibility program that includes within it an internship program with guidelines and criteria about not just the interns, but the folks who are providing the services to them, so that at the end of the day, both sides get something out of it. And then the other thing, ideally with an internship program, is these are folks who, from the corporate side, you're supposed to be writing letters of rec or teaching them soft skills, but they don't, for a variety of reasons, including, let's be honest, sometimes people don't know how to relate to people who don't look like them. So it's easier to say, hey, can you go file, as opposed to figuring out how to build a bond. But it's also incumbent upon someone teaching the interns how to leverage their networks, what that looks like, how to create a LinkedIn profile, how to identify. And I do this with my older daughter, who's actually now, she's a beast at it. She's learned, one, to identify folks who have the job or the career credentials that she wants. She introduces herself and she establishes networks, and she goes to different events. So now she's got 2 internships coming up in the spring that she just created out of whole cloth. But again, learning how to leverage your networks that you have to build. and teaching them what that looks like, and that there's a different language that you speak in the corporate setting as opposed to with your friends. We're going to all have to be trilingual. And that means, how do you speak to your friends and family? How do you speak to your peers at school? And how do you converse in the business world? And that's incumbent upon everyone. The other thing, we were talking a little bit about the marketing. The other piece is I want for in this charrette, because it's a good skill set to have, to learn how to identify where the resources are for the things that you want to put in this project. So I don't want to come in and say, oh, this is everything DWP can ask. No, no, no. I want you to think about what it is you're doing on the energy side and what are the resources out there. Learn how to do the research, learn how to figure it out, because we don't know everything. And unless you push me to ask me, I'm not going to think outside the box, because I don't need it. You do. And I need you to be an advocate for yourself. You guys are students. This is potentially housing for you because of the challenge that you're at this point in your life. What do you need? Advocate for it. And it's okay. The worst anyone can tell you is no, and no is okay, because no could be no for now or no permanently, but you're never going to understand until you ask. Again, with all of the corporations that we could potentially work with, we should also identify those who want to put some money in the pot. So at the end of the day, if we do this, are you willing to sponsor this challenge? Being the end result is not only do they participate, but the winner gets the opportunity to actually fund the build out of a couple of these units. And then you could slap your name on it too.
Wow. Powerful. And I want to make one statement. Charlotte had to leave the meeting. She's got a report that she's got to deliver for the California Community Colleges. And she was hosting this webinar, and this is her apologies. She is ready and available to meet again as a follow-up for her part on this Friday at 10 o'clock. So if anybody can make that, she has some things that she wants to add to the pot. She worked at Microsoft, and we have been talking about Microsoft on many levels being involved with the charrette. So that's what she represented for this particular meeting, as well as an opportunity to still plug into the bureaucracy known as the California Community Colleges. She's one of the people responsible for bringing policy and standardization for her region back to Sacramento. So she represents LA and Orange County, and had been on various phone calls with Jamie and I, and we decided on Wednesdays to try to create a update for building momentum to getting funding for the charrette, and as well as buy-in. But literally, we have talked to a lot of the same people over and over again, but we've never come up with one idea I think is as powerful as the charrette that could become critical mass for everybody to figure out.
And I'm going to encourage you, Kevin, and everyone with the charrette, if this is the way that you want to go, choose a project, and then you're going to identify your potential sponsors. And there are ways to do that with the government sector and the private sector. And it will be a sponsorship, but I will tell you, we no longer just hand out money, we invest in things. So we need to know at the end of the day, what do we get out of it?
Yeah. So it's not going in a black hole.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And to that point, Jamie wanted to find topics or themes for the charrette that would become real ammunition that would convert into a real solution to a real implementation. And so one of the things that we're doing is talking to folks like a gentleman who is a talent employment agency about finding partners or people who could actually participate in the digital media side, who could talk about a project that could be a real project that students could work on, instead of the students conceptualizing something from their point of view that maybe will never see the light of day, but to really work on something that's tangible to those corporations that are looking for almost like a focus group.
So is this potentially a project and a project? And what I mean by that, let's say, for argument's sake, we go with my idea about the building of the housing. So we'll source the students there. But then as part of that, we also want to be able to document and tell that story. We'll get your digital media in there. So we're funding both parts of it. And then the final piece, when we talk about jobs or the other pieces that could potentially come out of it, looking at what industries would potentially need the students working on this as employees. So for example, the energy industry, obviously, the building and the trades industry. We've already got the digital media industry, sales and brand marketing, if we want to name these houses or whatever. The other thing is to look at what the needs are out there. We're not going to be able to determine the needs, but take the lead from the public sector, especially. What are some of the challenges that they're facing? So we're not creating a market that doesn't exist. Am I doing that right? Yeah. So we know that homelessness is a problem, as opposed to saying we just want to build widgets for the heck of building widgets without knowing that there's a need for that. And there's not already discussion about it. And there's an unmet need, I would argue, because if we had met the need, we wouldn't keep having these challenges and seeing all these people on the street.
I think you've gone to something. The narrative for the charrette should be very well thought out, because I do believe, aside from just being an exercise, as you said, Keisha, Charrette Plus, it's got to talk about, really providing solutions to problems that we think these students and these corporations
and telling the story before.
Yeah. I mean, documenting is great, but really
public policy students too.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Los Angeles. Let's talk about homelessness. Let's talk about the paths that lead to that. Part one. Part two, this is what we're going to propose. Part three, watch us go through the process of identifying funding partners, identifying students, having them put together their project. Part four, finished projects, the judging. Part five, winner and next steps. They're now going to build.
That's right.
Wow. And
note that I don't take notes.
No, hey, you're on point. And Keisha, I didn't introduce you to Simone. Simone, hate to have you do it, but can you introduce yourself one more time?
Yeah, no problem. Hi. So I work for the California State University system.
Okay.
Are an initiative called the CSU Entertainment Alliance. And what we do is connect the vast entertainment, arts, and media industry. And that includes all things digital.
Okay.
Is so expansive these days. Everything from immersive reality to gaming to anything you can imagine that's digital, where there's something, you're looking at the screen, there's entertainment involved. And we do that through a variety of programs, including an internship program, which I explained, which relates in different ways to the charrette experience, a career development experience. Of course, this past year, they're all remote. So in a sense, they're all like project challenges, if you can,
right?
Which has been very interesting to both discuss, see the value of, get the value of, explain and market, and see. It's like the whole world is understanding, yes, you can actually work remotely if you have to. And remember that thing where bosses, if I don't see you, you're not working?
The micromanagers, yeah. I had an employee who sat in her office 8 hours a day, didn't do crap.
What? I love that.
But she was there. Yeah.
So, the other thing I've been very big upon is the value of advisors and industry leaders telling us how curricularly we need to adapt and change to
the new world,
not just the now, but the future. What are we looking at, and what are our students not getting? And I do work with the community college system, as I've explained quite a bit, in workforce development as well. We're cooperators, not competitors. And
right.
I actually personally think the community college system has been much smarter and faster about developing need-based skill sets and programs and funding for them.
Right.
Wow. And so what we have in the last maybe 12 minutes of this conversation, some of us have to leave even earlier. we're trying to make sure that the charrette concept becomes the default exercise that we can rally around in a timely fashion, because we've mentioned it to a couple of corporate partners or for partners about Black History Month. And not that we can launch it or implement it, but we need to promote something. And we talked to one person yesterday who is asked, can you do this in a timely manner for Black History Month? And so the question is, what can we promote and what can we actually start to build? And so we've talked about building a website, a portal for application, for all the processes that we'll need to try and start to source out what this thing will become. So I don't think we have to start it immediately, but I think we have to promote it pretty quickly.
I have a question, and I like that. I'm trying to remember, maybe you guys can help. If we're going to tie it to Black History Month, is there a way that we can identify, tie and or name the challenge? And I'm still stuck on my small houses because I'm stuck, but to a Black architect that also believed in small and name the challenge after that. And this becomes, so we don't also get caught up later on. We start off with this challenge, and then maybe for Asian American History Month, for Latino History Month, and for the Women's Business Month. And you just have different ones tied around something, identifying a famous or not so famous one, because that also gives you, under the digital media, the opportunity to explain who this person was, their vision, and why this challenge is.
Uh-oh.
We lost your audio.
Keisha, we can't hear you, but you were on.
Like, that's the meaning of life.
Right. Keisha, you were on it. You were on it. Keisha, you were on it. Yes, that is what, from a marketing standpoint, will resonate with all the disparate pieces. And they're not disparate to me, but again, with focus being on how to integrate the story and all of the promotional pieces that we have that don't connect, that could be what we can put out there. So from a research standpoint, Keisha, we can hear you now.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So here's another.
Okay, go ahead.
If we're serious about the Black History Month, I argue that we start now, because, and including the digital media, getting the students to identify an architect as someone whose work we want to highlight or replicate, that's somehow tied to housing or the need for housing, or a local one.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, do you have
to be the same student building it?
Okay.
They don't have to be the same student building it. These would be your public policy or your brand marketing folks.
Right. Right. And I believe that we have to start with a small group or small cohort of people that may not come from this democratized recommendation process, just to have a group of interns who can look over our shoulder and start to help with the research, to find something like that we can all agree on, that will give them the challenge of participating at the ground level. And so I've got a group of students I work with, but Charlotte has in her bag of deliverables ways to make this, again, a level playing field for all the community colleges to play in, but we don't have that time unless we do have time to get recommendations from the deans for how we can have students work on a Black History Month theme project.
Can you hear me?
Oh, now we can.
Okay, the deans and or the BSU or the Greek letter organizations from the Cal State system, because they're not at
the community college level.
College. Right.
Absolutely. Okay. Keisha, something's going on with your audio.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
Little bit, still funky.
I don't know, or my iPad.
Okay, well, yeah, we hear you a little bit better. So maybe if you have to sacrifice your video for the audio, speak now. Speak.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you better. Yes, yes.
So what I was suggesting is for the pre-work, the identification of whoever's work we want to, and again, it doesn't have to be the little houses, but whatever that is, you can select those. That's an honor, and there requires research. Now for the actual building, if we take my idea, then that's an application process. Because you know what we're going to also do? And you guys have to watch me because I'll take over. We're going to also involve the unions to have them be the partners, especially for the trades. And they can also pitch working for Local 11 for the electric side, or working for the water unit, etc. And that's their end game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, so Jamie, your thoughts?
Yes. I guess are all my thoughts. I love this. I love the turn that it's taking. I think it's quick, right? We're December, Black History Month starts in February. Yeah, we'd have to get on it. But I think this is really strong. And I'm walking through a Paul Williams house, which is a Black architect.
Right,
Baldwin
right.
Hill, that's being remodeled, and I'm working with the contractor right now. Like, I'm walking through the house that he's trying to remodel, and he's the first one that came to mind. I love this so much.
And Jamie, if you can, Keisha has no idea who you are. Can you do a brief description?
Okay,
I mean,
yes.
Yeah. So,
all right. So I am a professor at Long Beach City College.
Okay.
I'm a realtor and I teach finance, but also I own a nonprofit, Urban Social Entrepreneurs. And we teach social entrepreneurship in urban communities, our own backyards. And
Hold up, stop, Jamie. How old is your nonprofit?
About 10 years old now.
Perfect, because we're going to go for grants.
Okay, that's great. I actually inherited it. I co-founded it with my mentor, and he has 7 kids now that he needed to homeschool. So he said, Jamie, it's yours.
Perfect.
So we've been doing that. And I work on a lot of social enterprises. Like, I have a Brands Because marketing agency I started, or Baseball Resource Group helps minorities get into the MLB. So like, we've been kind of promoting our organization by being the social entrepreneurs ourselves.
Right.
Teaching how we've built our own organizations and enterprises. And so when I met Kevin, and I didn't know what I was getting into.
Right?
Yes.
Do it, Kevin.
I mean, it's just Kevin just drags you in, and then ta-da, you're an executive producer.
Here we are.
We've all had this seminal moment where we're saying, "Oh my God, what did we get ourselves into?" So yes, and so I met Jamie at her office in Inglewood, and was so proud to promote the fact that she was a really vested entrepreneur in the Inglewood kind of redevelopment thing. That I said, wow, she really is kind of a poster child for what it is I'm trying to do in the South LA region that Keisha has introduced me to through the Vermont Slauson Development Corporation. So I was always,
and Slate Z.
Yes, I was always thinking about, you two when I first met her at her office in Inglewood. So there's a lot of different pieces here that I think we can sew together over time, but time is going to be our issue with Black History Month. We do have a challenge that was thrown at us yesterday. I talked to Keisha about that person, Jamie, and she knows her. So we're going to try and figure out how to rally around some energy to make sure that we can promote something digitally. And this is what is the advantage of this digital age, is that we can move more information.
So can I throw something else back at you?
Sure.
Because Jamie, you talked about the house. What about if Paul Williams built a small house?
Wow.
Right. And he's done one before where he took something and made a smaller concept of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And just because you have a small house or it's for a disadvantaged community doesn't mean it has to be cheap or chintzy.
That's right.
Wow. Well, I will help with the Black History Month narrative. I've got a couple of themed events that I've done for the Department of Defense. But literally it's the timeline of where we are, where we've been, and where we hope to go.
We're just kicking off in February, Paul. Right. I mean, Kevin, we're just kicking off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing, so the only thing we'll, at that point, we're just announcing this is the challenge. This is who Paul Williams was. This is the need. Mm-hmm. And the next step is we're opening it up to both sponsors as well as to student participants. Now we'll have to identify who some of those are. And if we're good, we're going to need a nonprofit, Jamie, as part of the way to funnel the money in. And if we're good, we'll be able to come in and say, we already have these named sponsors for this challenge.
Okay.
Yes, and I think about, you know, how to make this more interactive is to have people nominate other people who have not been recognized as potential people in this timeline of either developers or people who've helped to create solutions to this problem that we want to solve. And that becomes the way to make sure that we're looking at history past, but present and future history is now. Right. And so, you know, again, all of us are going to be history 100 years from now. So what can we do to provide solutions for this historical timeline during a very historical 2020? So,
right. Now, I had a question I put in the chat because you are three brilliant people who might have a better understanding. I have this bug, bee in my bonnet about, I know the marketing and what it looks, and I get it, but the diversity is in people's backyards and we're importing it. I agree HBCUs should be supported, but also then.
Yes.
I just put this in the chat because it's since the summer, well, you know, glad for anything, right? Because, you know, all of us, I think, on this call have been working in a space where you've probably felt you're like, you know, listen to me, the need, the importance. And now it's not now a little more action towards lip service is happening, seems like, dare I say. But how do we get focus locally in California if all the support's going to the HBCUs or most of it?
Yes.
No, and I totally agree. I agree. And remember, part of that was I was lucky enough to go to school before Ward Connerly had his way. And then with the problem with which one am I doing? 2017 or 16 not passing. But one of the reasons I've articulated that, at least for DWP, we go to HBCUs is to find Black engineers. Right. And that's because those that can do well at a CSU or at HB or at a UC, and I went to the UCs, don't feel welcome because of the results of that. So we're in both places, but they're starting here. And so at DWP, our numbers suck for a variety of reasons. And our engineering core, that we can't find them. And I'm like, no, you can, because there are lots of people from LA who go to HBCUs and want to come home, but they need a path home. So I argue that we include all, but there's also a benefit to building up that engineering group, for example, of Black engineers at CSUN or Cal State LA, which is where some of the better engineering programs are.
Yeah, or Cal Poly as well.
Yeah, Pomona and SLO.
I think some of the problem is basic, like you need more Jamies in the system.
Yeah.
Teaching for obvious reasons. So it's like, we also need those great engineers to become instructors, professors. Yeah. So, but I'm thinking basic of trying to get support for programs like this, like we're going to have to do. And I mean, this sounds so trite, but is it a marketing issue? It's so obvious that the historically Black college, I mean, it's in the name, you know, It's there.
Yes.
One of the things that Jamie talked about is an ad agency type of component to the charrette is that we were going to have to create the marketing communication for this thing all the way through. And to have students help on that side of it, understand that, you know, we're going to have to articulate not only what the problem is, but how to make this solution something that is more interactive than has previously been done. So I'm thinking a moment in Black Month history, a moment in Black history during Black History Month, and creating many of those moments that could become, again, Latino and Asian and women all the way through. So
what do you mean a moment?
Well, a moment is really just spotlighting one person. And then
a story.
Coming up with a 2 to 3 minute long form documentary about the who, what, why, where, and how, what our campaign's about. And that would be the thing that we could deliver for everybody that we can get the outreach through. And that's one of the reasons why Charlotte's so important, and people like LADC and CCW, so that they can reach all of these students via email address, where we couldn't do it otherwise. So they would basically get the campaign, or they get the link as part of the outreach for the community colleges. And if we could do it for the Cal States, that even increases our audience. But just a moment in history would be a short form digital media story about the who, what, why, where, and how of us creating a narrative that says that these are the people that we're going to help to make their contributions solutions of tomorrow or today. And I've done that. Wells Fargo's commission that's for for something I did for some Buffalo soldiers at corporate. So that is something we can do as long as we have a website or a portal, or all of the things that we can promote. We can get this thing done with a group of a few students. And then really we have a template for how everybody can start to understand how they can get in, where they fit in.
That's, I mean, this is the most inspiring call I've had all week.
Well said.
Yeah. So I think maybe we can start with Paul Williams. It's just, you know, again, get a video crew to shoot some exterior, some interior, find as much research as we can on what he did and who he is and what he can become as an inspirational part of our story, and start to socialize that out there through the website as something that could become our moment in Black history.
I think that's invaluable, because for sure, there are undiscovered by most people gems like what you discussed. And I'm a fan of architecture. Never heard of him. It's not being studied enough for obvious reasons.
I have,
I'm highlighting cultural groundbreaking creatives, you know, like those are the things stamps will get made out of, you know, in the future.
Yes.
Well, and so Mo, you talked about XR. I mean, if you were able to take a stab at making sure that this becomes an experience where people can see him through this 4D experience, you know, all of the things that we can do to build out an extension for people.
And I'll tell you, for the two ladies, XR in real estate is
huge
right now. 3D and XR is amazing.
I know, because I'm looking for a house.
And how you do that remotely?
You know, of the different tours. Yes,
Well, and most important to this point is I was trying to make is that Keisha exposed me to green and clean tech. And from a modeling standpoint, what could you do to build in green and clean tech into this model of the new Paul Williams 2021 home? Oh my gosh. I mean, so in the Green Clean Tech Incubator they have downtown LA, which is closed now, we walked through that Green Clean Tech Incubator as an experience with a LADWP person, and they showed us all the different ways to build the house of tomorrow, the savings, the technology, and all the things that you just would never imagine, from flushing the toilet, saving money on water. I mean, just
but that's not just housing, it's everything. Like even entertainment production. That's
they showed us the lighting that the studios could save thousands of dollars, in wattage because there's no lighting. They showed us that. But all this stuff is applicable to green and clean tech becoming something that's a narrative that allows us to start moving people to awareness and potential adoption to something that especially communities that we represent will be the last people to know about. And the benefits really will be lost on them if they don't get in at the ground level and understanding how they can deploy these technologies in ways where it just really has to have that kind of buy-in from them, or it's just gonna roll right by them or around them.
If we can position this just the right way with these layers, built upon layers, from community building to multidisciplinary education to, it goes on, and career development, blah, 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 blah. I think a good pitch could be made to Array Studios, which is Ava DuVernay's, to get involved.
Okay.
Because I work with them and the LA City Mayor's Office on the Entertainment Diversity Internship
Fund. Initiative. Okay.
It's Evolve Fund, it's called.
Yes.
And position that to be the storytelling agent in a way.
Yes.
Does that make, and then you can get, because they get, I know for a fact, they have art students and community college students mostly as the interns. And my former star student is, I helped her she works with Ava now at the studio.
She worked in Marvel last year, didn't she?
Say that again?
Didn't she work in Marvel?
Yeah, she worked at Marvel.
Yeah, this was the star of the whole program, yeah.
Her dream was to work with Ava. When I met her as a student, that was her dream. And she's there now. I changed a life. Damn it, what life? I'll take it. But I just have this, I'm trying to elevate it. When you get that domino effect?
Yes, it's got multiple benefits.
Right, and then, Ava DuVernay is about, and then the money starts
flowing in. Yes.
And then the news outlets come in, and then, and then
it becomes replicable. And it could be a social enterprise then repeating that build all over the country.
So for a fact, I know that Best Buy was, before the pandemic, about to create a teen tech digital media center for
over at Vermont Sloss.
No, wait a minute. No, see, this is where the critical mass is, because Simone was working on a Best Buy project in Watts, and Keisha introduced me to the one in Vermont Sloss. So there were two, and you were the two people who introduced me to the two Best Buy projects that I don't know if are sisters or cousins or whatever.
Yeah, that's
so there's one happening in the Crenshaw area, Simone, also Best Buy.
Right.
But Simone was working with a talent agency who
is ICM.
ICM.
Okay.
With the Watts project, the Watts Best Buy.
Where's the Watts one at? Where's the Watts one at? Which properties?
I will put I'll put it, I'm trying to remember. It's a school.
Is it WLCAC?
No, that does not.
Because Ted Watkins has a lot of land down there.
It does not sound as familiar. Sorry, I've got it.
No worries.
Here, I'm going to put it right here. Look at that. It was on my desktop. What? It makes it look like I planned that. Not.
But we can't see it. You got to let her share screen.
Oh, no. I put it in the chat.
Okay.
Here, I can
see that.
I put multiple screen sharing, so you have. I think you have access to the screen if you want to, Simone.
Yeah, I don't see it yet, Simone, in the chat.
Oh, that's weird.
I opened it.
But yeah, I've opened.
Oh, you got it?
I just opened it, but see if you can share it in the screen.
How come I can't see it?
It's Jordan High School, by the way.
The URL.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a PDF I uploaded, I think.
Right. So I see partners in talent agencies. Yeah.
I just looked it up. It's Jordan High School.
I
don't know if you know.
But I'm trying to think if Jordan is in my service territory for Slate Z.
Oh, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
I think it is. Shoot, where is the phone?
In Watts.
Now, again, I had asked, and it's definitely on hold right now. Yeah. But my question Let's see.
Yeah, David Starr Jordan. Kevin, do me a favor. Can you go to the slatez.org? I'm looking for the schools. I think it's one of the Slate Z schools.
Okay.
Do you mind explaining what Slate Z means?
Sure. So Slate Z is one of the last federal promise zones under my president, Obama. South LA Transit Empowerment Zone.
I love it.
And with the South LA Transit Empowerment Zone, I actually co-chair the economic development portion of it and act as an advisor to the former executive director, Effie Turnbull Sanders, who now went back over to USC. But with Slate Z, we've got 5 different programs that we're working on: jobs, education, work, economic development, workforce development, education, safety, and there's one more. With the Slate Z partners, what we're trying to do is to put together a series of programs that are led by one and or more of the local nonprofits. And we have the benefit of being that promise zone that we can help you get extra points for federal programs when there's federal out there. And we're also trying to leverage it with the, what are those new things? Not the enterprise zones. What did he come up with?
Opportunity zones?
Promises.
Yes, with the opportunity zones.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I see the Slate. Yeah, so I just tapped in the.
Oh, I see it. Thank you.
But
yeah,
wow.
I just want to see, because we had a listing of the schools.
Okay.
That are in our service territory.
Can you share the screen and see if you can find? Yeah, because you're better at manipulating stuff, so you can find a way to put that up
multiple screens.
Yeah, you must have like 8. Okay, there. Yeah, I'm on it now too.
Where do I go? About?
Okay, who we serve. I just want to know the schools where we work.
This is, when I went to the first meeting for this, it was there's so many people working for the same goals.
Right. But it's also like herding cats.
Yes, but it's also they're not complimenting each other.
Well,
they're not talking to each other.
That is one of the problems that I'm trying to solve in this charrette, is how do we talk about collaboration for the students, but how do we get organizations to collaborate? Yes. Impossible, right? Impossible. So you have all these disparate pieces that will never, ever create this critical mass. And that's really the one defeating thing about trying for me, is because I know I've never seen collaboration amongst quote unquote competitors. So as a matter of fact,
I think
so it's not Jordan.
Oh,
I'm looking.
That's interesting.
Because we had the partner high schools,
I went to Crenshaw.
So Slate Z is Crenshaw. Okay, so yeah, so this is out of your zone. This is probably Edison. Edison has this one, or?
Well, no, that's not the issue. It's out of the promise zone. So there would have been extra benefits there. No, I think as long as it's in the city, it's ours.
Who decides what the promise zone is?
So when we put in the application, we had to include the zip codes. Right. Yeah, that was the part that I was looking for.
Okay.
Well, that's worth checking.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
The zip code.
Right. So Simone, for the purposes of understanding what Keisha's talking about, is there's a Vermont Slauson Development Corporation, and they're working on a Best Buy project within the opportunity zones.
Right.
That gives these extra tax credits to investors and people. And so there's a slate of corporations who are already bought into this whole thing with their project. And so
I got it.
It's fortified with those tax credits that make things more attractive for people.
Yeah, extra incentive to involve yourself. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like tax rebates for production, basically.
Right. And
you know what? So that's a good thing too. And I'm sorry to interrupt, Kevin, but if I don't get ideas out, I don't remember them. But with right. So with the opportunity zone and with the opportunity zone funding, if we pivot this the right way and place them, like if we start with, there is not a Cal State there in terms of locating.
Yeah.
If we're going to build the pieces, locating them in a promise zone and or promise zone overlaid with an opportunity zone, that is potential funding there.
That's right.
Well, yeah.
I mean, the closest is Dominguez Hills, I would say.
Cal State LA? Well, no, they're out of it. No,
Dominguez.
Yeah,
Dominguez is in Carson.
Yeah, that's the closest, I would say.
Carson may be an opportunity zone.
I know the president of Carson.
They're all over the place. I mean, there's little fragments of blocks.
Yeah,
opportunity zones. Because I do. That's a
so. But even if we start with, what if we start potentially with 2 locations with a Cal State,
and
which would be Dominguez Hills, and Trade Tech.
Oh, Trade
Which
Tech,
is in Slate Z.
Oh yeah.
And Trade Tech. Oh, okay. So Trade Tech is where you source your builders, your electricians, your plumbers.
And and Keisha, we even have an HBCU, Charles Drew, the only HBCU in California.
Right.
Charles Drew.
But it's a medical.
Yeah.
So it's a medical, and then we figure out how to wrap that in.
I know how to wrap it in. I know how to wrap it in. Well, here's a thought just from, and it's funny, when we were earlier in the call, this came up. Esports, huge career development opportunity, growing, not pandemically challenged at all.
Right.
One of the few areas. Esports, I'm putting this in quotes, arenas, and lack thereof, is where real estate opportunity, skill sets can all meet. And there is a medical component because a little bit physical, a little bit mental health oriented.
Okay.
Around gaming. And people are like, that's not sports. There are there are aspects of organized sports that are part of it. In fact, a lot of university athletic departments have created these teams. But there's also a need to ensure the students are physically and mentally doing what they should be doing. They're not sitting there eating 24/7. And there's a lot of studies.
And their dark room with their mental health going down and everything else. And don't open the door because the light comes in.
I love her. I love her so much.
Right.
You got it. So I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there because my brain is working like yours.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing where industry cares about something.
Yes.
Where campuses are trying to catch up, especially those not so private, those that are less funded.
Yes.
Like where opportunity meets need, meets all the things we're talking about.
And they could be first adopters instead of getting what's left at the end of the day.
And there needs to be eco-friendly options because these systems use so much energy. The GPU, high-end computer systems, there's so many things that people aren't taking into consideration.
What you're telling me is solar with battery backups.
That's so hot. Literally.
And guys, I'm going to tell you one of the biggest missing pieces in helping to build sustainable, better environments or better communities for underserved, underrepresented, disenfranchised people is something called the internet, broadband.
Yeah.
And so
you're talking a digital divide issue.
Yeah. So literally, this is the #1 resource that I think LAUSD is the only entity that I know has tapped into funding to make sure that they get all of the provisional things that are going to help people with the internet digital redlining. But it's actually managed by one person and one person only for all the school districts. So the choke point is one person. And none of the other school districts, none of the community colleges or Cal States have applied for this funding. It's $5.5 billion and it's all going unused.
They probably don't know about it.
Because I know, it's helping to build, it's libraries, libraries, after school programs, and school districts can apply for this funding. So I'm going to put this in there. This is one of our narratives is that we have so many resources and we throw money at the situation.
Kevin, nonprofits can apply for this. As long as the nonprofit,
that's why I'm going to put it out there. I think it's schools and libraries. So I don't know how you qualify.
But you said also after school programs. And Jamie, I'm going to ask you what your program looks like after tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Right? I can build it. We have a Learning and Knowledge Institute. There's no reason I can't position to be after school program.
Yeah.
Right.
So here it is. Yeah, here it is. And I want you guys. I want you guys to make sure that this is something that the students can help to research and pull out the tenets of these programs for opportunity zones and for the broadband initiatives, so that we can figure out where we could match or apply the matchmaking.
What's health?
Project. Huh?
So what is the health? Kevin, I'm okay with that, but what I don't want to miss is an opportunity to fund what we're doing, leveraging Jamie's nonprofit.
Right. And I think, well, the one part that this initiative had is coordinating and promoting the benefits of the organization, the broadband problem, and the broadband solutions is part of what we could be really talking about. Because if we're building homes, sustainable housing, buildings, whatever, without this broadband support that's available for these communities, we're missing a whole piece of the pie. So,
Kevin, who's funding this?
The feds. It's Congress. This is federal.
So who put together the board?
I have no idea who put the board together, but they're all folks from different districts. So I know that there's somebody from
California. That I see. I don't see that where.
Oh, I see them.
There's somebody from California. I don't know who they are. So I didn't do a deep dive in this, but I know that there's a person that does the editorial, a monthly newsletter, who invited me into a way for us to do a deeper dive in how it can affect LA County. Because he told me that LAUSD was the only participant in getting these federal funds. And I'm like, what?
Because they figured it out.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because they figured it out.
How do you know?
He said that the support was not going, it's not being distributed to some of the poorer schools. That's what he did tell me.
You know, it's that chicken egg thing. It's like they don't have enough resources to have someone to know to look for it.
Right. And that's the problem, is that there's not someone, quite frankly, if people were paid to do this research and bring more resources in, they should be commissioned to do it as opposed to just getting a flat fee.
Yeah, because then they will work harder.
I found all this stuff out by doing research. And this is what I think our students, I could actually have interns to help me mill all this research I've done to figure out how it can be integrated into a promotional pilot, so we can look at all the resources there and figure out how these great grant writers can go after this stuff.
Yes, I'm trying to look for a grant now to see who's eligible.
Yeah, there is a grant. I've shared this with Lyle. So a lot of the research I did was to point it to Lyle for Oklahoma. For you guys that don't know, there's a guy named Lyle that we've been talking about.
I know who it is.
Yeah, so I've forgotten more than I can learn about Shelby. I mean, so it's like I said, it was going nowhere because we haven't been able to find any traction in finding out who could help write some grants around this. Jamie could, because she's a grant writer, as well as a super, maxed out person on all levels. But this is really one of the biggest missing pieces because, during the COVID situation, most of the students that I'm working with right now, they don't even have bandwidth enough to get online because they were going to the library.
Because this could fund the infrastructure around whatever housing we do, that it comes with that automatically.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I'm just trying to figure out who can apply for it.
Well, so Jamie, I think we should get some interns to help us research all of the things. Yeah, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to try and figure out how to extract and match all the things that could be part of our pitch.
Right. Okay. And then here's I got a lot going on in here. This is my real life.
And Keisha, does Daniel have any students that he's still in contact with during COVID? Ferguson, do you know?
We can reach out to him.
Yeah, because I know he's been doing.
And he's got his old another thing too.
Yeah, I know. I've been watching him on Facebook because he's doing his stuff in Crenshaw, and he's
right.
So because right now we need just a group of people who are capable of doing some internship, some research work, and helping Jamie pull some of this stuff. Because again, when we put the deck together and when we put the website together, we've got to figure out where these things go into buckets.
Exactly.
And that
we're going to need funding. Oh, hold on. Thinking. We're going to need funding for that. Jamie, where is your nonprofit headquartered?
Inglewood.
I need to connect you to someone at CD Tech who I had a conversation with last night. The Inglewood, but if I could say that you do more than Inglewood, but he had funding to match funding for like AmeriCorps volunteers. And so so to be able to launch that, we're doing that with Slate Z, but this is a Slate Z project. So yeah, we may have to do an offline with Benny Torres and to see if there's a way to identify funding. I don't want to get free interns. I believe in paying people to the extent that we can, so we can identify a source of funding or matching funding. Okay. So one of the things he and I were talking about is, this whole notion of defund the police. And I was telling him, I don't want to call it that. But if there is that funding out there, and we're talking about reallocating resources to better meet the needs of the community, and then if we're talking about, and we've identified homelessness as a need of the community, and so what we're looking for is resources to fund interns to help us identify funding sources for an initiative that's going to come up that will not only touch education, career development, but the building of housing for homeless folks.
That's huge. Right.
In Slate Z.
Wow.
Hopefully someone wrote that down because I'm not going to remember.
Well, I'm recording this. So you have it playback. I'm recording it. So so Jamie and I are working as a team. Keisha, you introduced me to this one gentleman who has, if we need be, we have a nonprofit in LA, gentleman by the name of Ben, who's a veterans organization.
Yeah, I'm working with Ben on something else too. And Ben can be a part. Jamie's is more focused. But yeah. Okay.
So just in case, again, so we don't miss anything, we have coverage. If we don't qualify, we have LA also.
No, because I'm going to argue that Jamie's organization is going to start attending Slate Z meetings on the Education Committee and the Economic Development one, because we've always argued is that our residents go back and forth across that southern border. So just because you live in Inglewood doesn't mean you don't work in LA. If you live in LA, you may work in Inglewood. So there's a way to do that, but it's the area we're trying to improve.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's perfect.
Yes.
Wow. And so, and lastly, for integration of all resources into one bucket that will have many buckets. They'll have the website, they'll have decks, they'll have marketing communication pieces, they'll have press releases, in the longer form story. We need to scope out what that is. And I think if we put a scope of work together that really will go to our funding needs with the interns in it, this could be what could allow people to understand how they could help to, undergird this promotional piece that's going to lead to something more comprehensive. So, so Jamie, I'm gonna give you a tip for a scope of work that I did for the California Community College system, so that we can try and get there. Whoever from the California Community College system who has any money, and that's what Charlotte and I were talking about, is even getting them to put some skin in the game at the level of $2,500. Because if they don't put skin in the game, it's hard for people to really be held accountable.
Right.
So our audience, the community colleges, or any sponsor that we want money from.
Well, there's a lot of people who will jump on the bandwagon.
And they're going to want from us to be able to sing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we got to get the bandwagon started. And that's really the first in is got to be someone with eminence. And and I think with eminence, it's got to be the California community colleges. They don't have eminence, but they're the buyers. They're the people who have to have some responsibility for driving this thing down to every student that we can't reach right now. Because we can't reach them through television or through radio, social media, but every dean can reach them, every instructor can reach them through their email addresses. So that's how we have to sell that we're going to have these people as the buyers and partners. So Charlotte needs to understand that this is our outreach. This is our connectivity to all of the sponsors, advertisers, partners who want to know that these people can be reached on demand. And really, as I was telling Jamie, Jay Tucker told me this, he said, these people are no longer students, they're all consumers now. They're in home.
Yeah. Good
yeah.
So that's how we have to look at this scope of work, is that we're reaching numbers of people, numbers of consumers who are 18 to 26 or 18 to 50 or 60 in the community college system for the California
18 plus, just 18 plus.
And these are people who we have all the demographics on, and we can reach them where you may be not capable of reaching them with the kind of messaging and the penetration of messaging that we have to get them engaged, activated, engaged in learning, workforce development, and to some degree, some social responsibility of their own to helping us during, a situation where everybody.
Okay, as long as it's clear, Kevin, I just want to make sure it's clear at the end of the day, this isn't just outreach for outreach's purpose, but the intent is to build something tangible that we can get behind. So the building up of the outreach platforms, et cetera, and the backdrop, that's needed infrastructure. But that's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to build something that can be replicated, that has tangible results.
Right.
Your model, creating a model for sustainable, eco-friendly, accessible.
This is where I was asking for.
Complete.
Yeah, I think the outreach that I was thinking about that on the first layer of activation is participants, the students who can submit themselves for qualification to be part of the process of helping us build this campaign and building the charrette and then participating in the charrette at some level. And those submissions, I wish we had Corey now.
So even if we call it but can we call it charrette-based learning or charrette-based project learning? And there are different initiatives. We're going to kick off the first one, the Paul Williams one. So at the end of the day, again, we're not just building communication. We're helping to transform how the community colleges and the CSUs deliver education so that at the end of the day, it's not just theory, it's actuality.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and again, some of the skills the students will be learning even before the charrette. So it's actually not before the charrette, it's all during the process of the charrette building, is learning how to build these tools. I mean, the website, the social media, all the things we talked about.
Yeah.
And then
you're delivering a whole project.
It's entrepreneurial, interdisciplinary.
Yes.
It's everything. And now everybody has to be everything. You need to know how to do it.
You got to be the
DIY.
You got to be the Swiss Army. You have to.
I have one minor thing, because you're going to have to, unfortunately, there's a market, I hate that word, using the word charrette in it before people know what it is could be
nobody
start with just
challenge.
Yeah.
I talk
project, career, or professional experience,
Yeah, I've talked to 7.
I agree.
I talked to several people, and this is just for a little bit more context. We, Simone actually did, this is something that you guys are really connected to the hip. We remember the 5G Global Summit thing that you participated in, Keisha?
Oh, yeah.
No, wait, this is interesting. Yes. So the original version of our presentation, Keisha was in it until she wasn't. And
but so I was in my car.
So Simone replaced you, Keisha, in our final version.
Oh, yeah. And I was like, what am I?
So Keisha was in the original version. And because she was in a vehicle, 5G people, Mobile World Congress people said, we can't promote anybody sitting in a vehicle because it's, you know, mobile.
Oh, for God's sake.
It's our social responsibility to say that we can't showcase people being mobile in a vehicle. Even though she was parked, but it showed the headrest. So she nailed it, but they said, hey, scratch that version. You guys got to do it again. So Simone replaced you, Keisha. I don't know if you ever saw the finished version.
You're not replaceable, believe me.
No way. But what happened is that it became an internship opportunity for me because I had 4 students working on that whole project the whole time. It's what Mobile World Congress was and how to use mobile and all the best practices of how mobile is transforming the world was really the outcome. And so the piece that's really important for us to know is that the growth industry of mobile is something we can really put into this thing, because if people want to know where the there is that we're teaching people how we can make this campaign, how we can make the charrette mobile, using mobile devices.
Well, then let's go backwards, because if you're looking at creating an entity, a building, these models, how do you feed that into it in your mind, Kevin? Because it doesn't, we need to connect it better. Yeah. I mean, obviously the digitally wired, state-of-the-art home for everybody, universal is no, whatever it is. That part of it, in your mind, what does that mean?
Okay,
they sound different.
I think you broke up. Well, you broke up a little bit for me, but the first thing that when I saw when I saw some of the Mobile World Congress promotional pieces about this North American project, is using mobile for different applications, and one of them is using the mobile device as the default tool as a universal remote in the home. And so opening garages and opening doors.
Well, hold on, Kevin. Let me ask a question, because I'm not sure that I understand. Mark. Simone, is the issue the use of the term charrette?
Oh, originally when I brought that up, yes. In initially describing it to people, just that word.
No, and I totally get that, because that's not necessarily a term.
That was the original question.
Everybody else.
My question to him was his bringing up with the Mobile World Congress and everything we were talking about, how to directly better connect it to the other part of our conversation.
Right.
You know,
or how to describe it so that it's
you were talking about socializing,
know what they're getting into.
Right. So the point that I was trying to make is that all the people that were involved in that 5G thing, I've asked them about the term charrette, and nobody knew what it was. So the general, the guy from USC, the Valence community, all those people, they didn't know what a charrette was. No, one guy did, but you know, so these people who are so willing to help, they didn't know what a charrette was. So
can we come but they do know project-based learning or externship, internship, whatever. Apprenticeship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apprentice is a good word.
So we have to have a way to describe it so that everyone is clear on these are all of the elements of this project.
And the fact that we can, if you think of a model world, a model, like it's so in minds knows, especially the stay-at-home situation.
Right.
You need to live and work and somewhere where all of those things can happen the safest, healthiest, most productive way.
Right.
And how do you do
the
that?
Healthiest, right. And the healthiest, as you mentioned earlier, includes mental health.
Mental health
as well as
huge thing right now. Huge thing right now. People feel isolated, or they're not living in healthy, safe, literal communities,
right?
Air quality, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So there's that layer. They're digitally divided. There's that layer. Then you've got, you know, substandard housing. Then you've got non-eco. Then you've got, I mean, and the community support system under it.
Right.
So it's like,
right. Yeah. And the biggest problem that
could involve those things.
Okay, so I was gonna say for as default, one of the things that we came up with is a Venn diagram, myself and the general, about creating some centerpiece for all the things that we were trying to get done, and really was for opportunities. But now that COVID and all the people were behind the curve already before COVID, have now felt more disenfranchised from opportunities. So we have to rebuild and restore what that was before COVID. And really it's hope. Has anybody ever heard of the Hope Doctrine?
Maybe? What, can you be more specific?
Yeah, I was like, give me a frame of reference.
Well, no, it can't be even framed. I mean, I'm going to give it to you because this is probably, this was the centerpiece for what we built this Venn diagram for. And we stopped using the term Venn diagram, but.
Because I didn't understand that either.
Yeah. So.
That one I did understand, but I want to be able to say one day, me and the general, that's what I want to do. Me and the general were having coffee. And he said, and I jumped to attention.
Okay.
New message.
Well, yeah, if you look at all the messaging, if you look at all the digital media that they
from John
Hope, the Hope Doctrine, it really is adopted by all frameworks of disciplines and everything that affect people from underserved, underrepresented, under-resourced, and disenfranchised. And that may not be what our students want to claim that they were, but they were on the fringe of that. But now because of COVID, they're even further endangered from falling off the cliff of hope. So the students that I work with, they don't even return my phone calls anymore. I got 20 people on speed dial and they're out of it. So that's a small sample size of community college people. And really what the focus of the Hope Doctrine was for our program is that the LA County created this arts program around the people, the modalities of homeless students, LGBTQ students, single mothers, system impacted, and foster care students. But the key word, they were all students still in the community college systems trying to pull themselves up by the bootstraps.
The commonality, yeah.
They have no more boots. So this is where the LA County has created funding, and all the Board of Supervisors have decided this is what's more important than anything, is to get these people in the game. Well, that was before COVID. Now, good luck.
Yeah.
So that's a bigger overarching problem, but how many people who weren't in that area of danger are now in that area?
Have fallen in them. Yeah.
Homeless students, 1 in 5 of every community college students are homeless. Has that increased? I don't know.
Yeah.
How many
we have the
mothers?
same.
I mean, how many people are now disenfranchised? And I think a lot of people would be surprised.
Or have food insecurities.
Yeah. So those are the things that we wanted to focus on
housing.
Pre-COVID. Yeah. Now, dare I say, everybody could be fragile now.
Yeah.
So
okay, I gotta go because I have another call.
I know we can be on this. So Jamie, what are the steps that you need help with in creating the digital footprint for this thing?
Right now, I just have to do it. I had to get a direction. I think we have one now. And now I started already at urbansocial.media. I just didn't have the templates in there. I just needed to fill in the gaps. And so this helped fill in a lot of the gaps, how we're gonna kind of brand it, what it looks like. I started specking out 8 episodes. Like, how do we run this? What's the run of show? And so my ad agency team actually helped me with it because I was busy. And so we kind of spec'd it out and created this base thing. And so I'm gonna pull all the pieces together, Kevin, and run it past you and then just start plugging in all the gaps.
Right, because what Jamie asked me for is to plug in names, faces, personalities into the charrette deck. And I haven't started that process yet. So Keisha and Simone, I want to be able to put your spirits in there as people who fit somewhere in the organizational chart of how we put this campaign together. Because that's really what it is right now. It's a campaign, but eventually it'll become a thing. But right now it's a campaign. And it's trying to get as Jay Tucker said, the coalition of the willing.
Willing, yeah. I know that.
The coalition of the willing. Because a lot of people I know, man, they can't afford to even pay attention right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to find something that can really give people something to bite on, to chew on. So and I think Jamie will do a wonderful job. I will send you guys a sample of a project that she did that really bowled me over for Major League Baseball. For all the scouts who were trying to find ways to scout talent who couldn't find them anymore, she created a site with Major League Baseball participation to create a way for scouts to still find talent.
Okay.
We got another league going December 27th. Anyway.
Cool beans.
So her and her team are wonderful in telling the story digitally.
Okay.
Okay. All right, guys.
Okay, guys. I'm going to run now. Okay.
Great to meet you, everyone.
Nice to meet you all.
Okay. And so, Jamie, I'll talk to you, Ted, later on this afternoon. Okay.
Perfect.
All right, Kevin, tell me what you need.
You got it. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Oh, and send me this recording.
Oh, got it.